Now that your center panel has been fully marked for folds and stitch lines, it's time to get forming your very first pin tuck. Eventually your piece will look like this with 6 or 8 of them, depending on what size you're sewing. Look how much it shortens the piece after you've created all of those 1/4 inch pin tucks. This is what you want. So I'm going to set this aside and show you how to create your first pin tuck. So remember how we notched the sides? We kind of clipped a little bit into it to pretty much denote where the first fold was going to go. That is the one that's closest to your top, and your top is where your little V-shaped center notch is at. That is your first pin tuck. So what we're going to do is flip your piece wrong side up and fold it right where that first set of side notches are. And you want to fold it so that you get a perfectly straight line going across. Your side edges should match up. Don't fold it crooked like this or like this, because then your entire piece will end up distorted. You want to be perfectly straight like this. And then you can take your iron. Let me just do this. Yes. Take your iron and press it down perfectly. You want to get a very nice crisp fold right there. Wonderful. This is what it should look like right now. This is actually your first fold for your pin tuck, and you're going to be stitching right where we marked that stitch line. If for some reason your marking tool starts to fade out or something, mine actually got brighter when I applied heat to it. But if yours does not do that, don't panic, because we already know that all of our stitch marks are exactly a 1/4 inch higher than the fold. And this is true for all of the sizes and all of the pin tucks. So if for some reason your stitch mark faded away or something, just take your ruler, measure a 1/4 inch away from the fold, and then mark it again, and then you're good to go. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine. Also, most sewing machines already have a 1/4 inch mark on the plate. So it's just a matter of, I'll show you, lining up your fold with your 1/4 inch mark right there. Making sure your piece is nice and straight. I'm going to take my first stitch by hand just to make sure I'm on the line. I'll lower my presser foot, lower my needle by hand, just like that. I am right on the line. And by the way, since this is technically a top stitch, it's decorative and it's going to be seen from the outside, I always like to increase my stitch length just slightly to like top stitch length. Right now I have it at 3 millimeters, and that is going to create a nice decorative look on the outside. So now you're just going to sew all the way from side to side. Oh, and I like to back stitch or lock stitch. Some machines have a lock stitch, others don't. So if you don't have a lock stitch, just go ahead and back stitch at the beginning and the end, because you do not want these stitch marks to become unraveled. Stitch slowly and carefully, just to make sure you get a nice straight stitch. This is our first pin tuck. There it is, and then all you have to really do is press it down just like this. Your stitch mark is perfectly, or your stitches are perfectly a 1/4 inch away from the fold, and then all you have to do is repeat the same step 6 or 8 times depending on what size you're sewing. So your next one will go here where your next folds are, so you'll just fold there, and then you'll stitch a 1/4 inch away, and on and on and on. You'll have all of your fold marks and all of your stitch marks all the way marked till the end. Yeah, there's my last one right here, and I can see my stitch marks are already fading away, so I just go ahead and mark them real quick, because we already know they're a 1/4 inch away from the fold. And then at the end you're gonna end up with something that looks exactly like this. Hopefully they'll all be nice and straight. And the way you know, this is a very important step, you need to check to make sure your center panel ends up the same length as the side panel that it's eventually going to be stitched onto. I always like to keep all my marking and cutting tools next to my project, just in case I need to grab them real quick. So let's just move this one out of the way, and I'm going to grab my side panel. This is my side panel. Eventually, this piece will be sewn onto this piece, and it will be sewn onto the mirrored one of these. But you only have to check one, because remember they're the same. These two are the same size, this one and the mirrored one. So all you have to do is really check to make sure that the length of this panel is the same as the length of this panel. So you'll just butt them up against each other. That looks perfect. If that matches up, then you're ready to go on to the next chapter, which is creating the placket. If for some reason one of these ends up shorter than the other, then just all you have to do is just adjust your Pintucks. And yes, you'll need a seam ripper. You'll probably have to take a couple of them out. I've done it many times, trust me. It just takes practice. But once you get it just perfectly, then you'll see that it'll all come out just perfectly. So let's get started with the placket.